Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the Singapore Grand Prix race reaction. It's a bit of a redundant statement because it's the same for all time, but that's 90 minutes of never getting back. Not the best, was it? Let's be honest about that one. I hope you found something to enjoy in that race. You can vote, of course, in the poll. Rate the Singapore Grand Prix. Great, good, average / okay, or bad. I am going to rate that I'll rate it average, but the lower end of average. There were some things in there that kept me interested, particularly sort of in that midfield and seeing what Charles Leclerc could do on that sort of slightly offset strategy with the much later stop and Piastri coming back, but really not one I'll be rushing to watch anytime soon. Again, I think Dell's just described that as one of the, if not the worst of the season, one of the worst. I think Monaco only worse, Dell is saying, but more, apparently 110 minutes. Wasn't it the shortest Singapore Grand Prix? No yellow flags, no safety cars. We're living in a parallel world of F1 at the moment. It's absolutely bonkers. But let's crack on with the race reaction. Some good news. I did say yesterday we have no guest today. I was going to be solo. However, I have a guest, and I'm going to hop in here now. Let's hope I've done this right. I probably haven't. And say a very good, well, I guess morning for you, Elizabeth. Good morning, Elizabeth, over in the US. Thank you for joining me on your stream debut.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here. I am excited to join the team.
It's great to have you here. It really, really is. I know it's been. I know I've been told you're quite excited about getting involved in video content, so it's great to have you on the stream and introduce you to my wonderful, if not at times slightly unhinged community. They're a good bunch.
If you're not unhinged, you're not doing it right.
Exactly. I concur. I'm totally happy with that one. I'll throw the question. Either throw everybody the question at the start of a stream. I asked people to sort of rate the race: great, good, average, okay, or bad. Where would you put that? I've said lower end of average. That was not the best we've seen.
I'd agree with you on that one. It was fine. I wouldn't watch it again, but I wouldn't say it was a bad race. It was just not a compelling one.
Yeah, I'd agree. And a dominant one for Lando Norris, which of course is where we're going to start with race winner Lando Norris. Again, I don't know where to start, really. A dominant performance, something we've become so used to seeing Max Verstappen do in recent years, particularly last year, of course. And he got the lead, kept the lead off the line, which was a big win for him today. Kept the lead, disappeared, built the gap when he was told to. I think at one point told to build to 5 seconds by the mid-teens. I think he was 10 or 15 seconds up the road by that point. Never looked back. Probably could have had a bigger lead as well. I think just I think Martin Brundle said a champion's drive. It certainly felt like a race that was defining for him in some ways. Just I was going to say faultless, but it obviously wasn't. There were a couple of moments, but a massive performance from Lando Norris today, and I think we've got a championship on our hands. I don't want to speak too soon.
I'm really excited about this. One of my biggest critique about Lando is that he hasn't really seemed like he's been championship material quite yet, especially with all of those start line bungles. And today he really showed that he has actually learned how to do a start, to get off the line well, to hold that first position coming into the first turn. Like I'm excited. I know it's going to be a tough gap to surmount for the championship, for the drivers' championship, but I'm here for it. I'm really here for it.
It'll make such a change, won't it? It feels like forever since we had a title fight. It is actually only a few years. It was 2021. And maybe as a Ferrari fan, we can maybe count the start of 22. Maybe.
Yeah, I'll give you the start of 22, but I feel like 2023 just aged me 60 years. Every race felt like it was a whole season long.
It did. No, I agree. There was some crackers in there behind the leader, wasn't there? And that's kind of what we're looking at today. But great drive from Lando. A couple of mistakes I've put in my notes. Hit the wall at one stage, sort of grazed it really, didn't he, with his front wing. He said after the race, when asked by, I think, DC, David Coulthard, whether he was pushing too hard, he said maybe it was actually the other end. I wasn't pushing hard enough and a bit complacent and grazed the wall. And then had another moment as well, didn't he? So where George Russell had his crash last year, actually, funnily enough. So not perfect from Lando, but about as close as he can get to it. Maybe a bit of frustration at the end that he didn't get the fastest lap thanks to Daniel Ricciardo. We'll come to him shortly. But I just think apart from those two moments, he didn't really do anything else wrong today, did he? And thoroughly deserves the win and looks like, I think as we've suspected for a while now, has the best car out there and is the driver and the team to beat McLaren, who've extended the lead in the Constructors' Championship. Just kind of not blown away, because I think a lot of people have known his talent for a long time, but it's sort of taken me back a bit this season, just how much he seems to have stepped forward now he's got a fast car. I know that sounds obvious. Faster cars are obviously always going to be better than, chugging around at the back. But I think as a driver, he seems to have matured quite nicely this year. So really great performance. And I think that Max is going to have to really give it everything this year to hang on to that title.
Absolutely. I don't think we necessarily give these younger drivers credit. Like Lando's he's been around for a while, but he's never been in this position where he is battling for wins and for potentially a championship at this point. And I think he's done really well to step up to that challenge. It looked a little hit or miss when it started to become clear that McLaren had a really quick one. And it's really nice to see that he's taking feedback, he's learning, he's doing his thing, he's figuring it out, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see where he goes. I do think he could be a little less harsh on himself, if I'm honest, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, he does, doesn't he? He does seem quite, sort of beats himself up quite a bit. I'm trying to think of...
Yeah, he got out of the car today, and I was like, girl, you can smile. Come on, you just won the race.
To be fair, he looked knackered. I'll give him that. He looks absolutely
Okay, yeah, that's totally fair. I would be pooped too.
I was trying to think off the top of my head of a driver who was like that in the past, where they sort of get out of the car and they're like, oh, there's the win. But it seems quite unique to him. But yeah, great performance from Lando today. I have just realised, Elizabeth, I scrolled too far down on my structure, my list of how I want to do the stream. I didn't even give you the chance to introduce yourself. I just went, right, let's talk racing, which is atrocious.
No worries at all. That's what I'm here for.
So I will just pause for a second before we get to Piastri, because a couple of people in chat asking who you are, not in a rude way, and where you're from. So hello, Elizabeth. Welcome to the F1 word. We're as good as ever over here. Who are you and what are you known for? I know you're US editor at planetf1.com, unless I'm completely wrong. I should know that. That's appalling.
So my name is Elizabeth Blackstock. I am the U.S. editor at Planet F1. I have my own podcast called Deadly Passions, Terrible Joys, which is a history podcast. Co-wrote a book with Alanis King about the Rich Energy Haas saga. So if you haven't read that, it's really good. Not to toot my own horn, but we put in a lot of work on that bad boy. And I am a certified race car fan, so I'm stoked to be here.
There we go. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Yes, I'm so sorry. That's usually the first thing I do, but I just wanted to talk racing. So yeah, that's Elizabeth. Hopefully not. It's your first stream. Hopefully not your last one as well. So you can get to know these people. Let's say these awesome
gang.
Folks. The gang, yes. Thank you very much, by the way, on the subject of the gang. To a Yinka for your super chat, says Max has Daniel and Checo helping him. McLaren needs to be helping Lando. Lando is quality. Reminds me a bit of Seb, the way he led from pole today. That's a good shout actually on the Seb point. Seb did like to sort of break that DRS, didn't he, and disappear at the front. So I think that's a really good point of Yinka. Sky were kind of pushing it, Elizabeth. You may have seen it with them trying to sort of push the is it time for team orders at McLaren. I feel like we've had that conversation between us as fans about a million times in the last few weeks, but Nico Rosberg made the point that Hungary was probably too early to sacrifice Piastri. Yeah. But do you worry that maybe come the end of the season, if Lando loses the championship by 8 or 9 points, they're going to rue that?
I think they probably would, but also at the same time, what are you supposed to do? I don't think McLaren were quite expecting to be as contentious as they are this year. I don't think anyone was expecting Lando Norris to be contending for a title. Those team orders are it's one of those things where if you implement them partway through the year, you're always going to look back and be like, oh, we should have done that earlier. We should have done it at Hungary. And I think it's kind of, I don't know. It's really tough to say. I think at this point, yeah, they should probably consider that, especially considering that their competition in Red Bull has a total of 4 cars that can kind of, I don't want to say manipulate the outcome of the race, but that can help, do things like we saw today with Daniel Ricciardo snatching that last point for fastest lap away from Lando. You've got a big group of competition out there. So you really need to be on top of your game in order to be able to push through that.
Yeah, and it's obvious statement again, but you can't see in the future, can you? Red Bull had kind of was starting to fall away at that point, but I don't think anybody predicted they'd go this long without a win. So McLaren probably looked at it and thought, right, let's just bank the points for constructors. Max is too far gone in the drivers. We'll worry about that next year. But then obviously it sort of played out differently. If they could predict the future, I'm sure they would have done it differently, but you just can't do that. So I'm not going to get too into team orders because Michael Schumacher's my hero, so I don't
Yeah,
want to say too much.
I'm not a big team orders gal. I say let them race. If it has consequences, it has consequences. It just gives me more to talk about and more juicy scoops for everyone to digest after the season.
That's very true. That's very, very true. Oscar Piastri, I think actually a really good drive today. Shame about yesterday. Didn't qualify very well, but came through from 5th place. Ran really nicely quite long into the race. I think he looked after his tyres quite a bit in that first stint. And then when he was told to push, he just absolutely floored it and was on the leader's pace. Ended up behind a couple of cars, managed to overtake them in fairly good time, I think. And then sort of came into 3rd place. Didn't quite have enough today to chase down Max for P2, but I think a really good drive from Oscar Piastri. Not massively surprising given how he's been at times this season, but he's going to be key in this fight, obviously. I just look at my notes. Dropped behind Hulkenberg at the start. He kind of got a bit mixed up at the start. Then he Russell dive bomb down the inside. That put Piastri on the back foot a little bit, which allowed Hulkenberg to make a cheeky little move in there to get through, but he did get back through on turn 7 on the same lap to take P5 back. Looking after tyres early on, deployed the pace through the pit stops, particularly after Russell pitted, actually, to be fair. Ran long, said it was getting tricky on lap 38, pitted that lap, rejoined behind Hamilton and Russell. Lovely moves on both Mercedes, by the way, on lap 40 and lap 45, around the outside of turn 7. Russell a bit closer than I think he'd have liked, but yeah, good move. 18.3 behind Verstappen on lap 45 and ended up 20.8. So I think once he sort of got through traffic, realised he wasn't going to catch Max, maybe just backed off and banked to the 3rd place, and probably the sensible thing to do. But really good drive from Oscar. Obviously difficult when your teammate wins by that margin to be 3rd and 41 seconds off the lead. But given he was coming through the pack, I think he did a good job today.
I would agree. Like, Oscar has really impressed me this season. Last year, it was one of those kind of hit or miss learning curves. And this season, he's really putting it together. Like, it didn't seem like he made many mistakes. His problem primarily was that he just didn't qualify super well. And so that put him on the back foot moving forward. But like, he put together a really impressive drive, kept his head cool. You know, it's a lot of fun to watch, like, a really good young driver so early in their career kicking butt.
Yeah, he's another one actually that's come a long way in this season, hasn't he? He kind of impressed last year, but he stepped it up this season, despite the fact that Norris has stepped it up, and he's giving him a run for his money at times. So I think, whilst I think Sky were pushing the point on Nico Rosberg was that maybe Oscar Piastri could win the title this year, I'm actually more looking forward to McLaren versus McLaren, Norris versus Piastri next year, because we've already had a few little moments this year that make you go, oh, this could get spicy. So next year could be great.
I know, right? I need another. We haven't had a good, like, Prost versus Senna tearing each other apart team battle for a while, so I think we could do with one.
Yeah, well, there's Prost Senna, isn't it, at McLaren? Then there was obviously Hamilton and Alonso as well they had to manage. So
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh.
they know what they're doing.
Bring it back.
Can Zach Brown cope with that, do we think?
Absolutely not. McLaren will fall apart in the process, but it'll be good television.
It'll be great to watch. And if you know what, if we could have Red Bull on form as well next year and have Verstappen versus whoever his teammate is, Piastri versus Norris, and then fighting each other as well, we could have a cracking 2025. But we're talking about 2024, so I'll not look too far ahead just yet. But yeah, good stuff from Piastri today. Not much more to say. Anything in your notes, Elizabeth, for McLaren before we move on?
Not anything too crazy. It was a good race from them. They got to stop asking their drivers to strategize for them, I think. But after that, they'll be pretty much pretty set.
Yeah. That's a Ferrari trick, isn't it? Asking the drivers to make the decisions like that. Don't want to fall into that trap. That can be a disaster. Sorry.
Yeah, it can be bad news bears. Not a good idea.
No, definitely not. So moving on to Red Bull then. Verstappen, P2, Sergio Perez, P10. I said it in the qualifying watch along yesterday. If Max Verstappen can bank P2 and follow Lando Norris home, I think he'll consider that a pretty good weekend. I know he wants to be winning, but given the noise around Red Bull and what a lot of fans expected and pundits expected coming into this weekend, P2 is actually a very good job, and it's a great bit of damage limitation. Verstappen drove extremely well today. It doesn't look like it so far off the leader, not winning the race, but it's still a really good drive given where that car has been and people expect it to be this weekend. So I think he'll be happy with that, Elizabeth, for sure.
Absolutely. And I think if I've done my math correctly, if Lando wins everything for the rest of the season, Max only needs to finish second to still take the championship. So taking that second today is a really good first step in that direction, especially considering the last few weekends have just seemed like an absolute disaster from the Red Bull side of things. It seems like this weekend they didn't have high expectations, but they managed to put the car together decently well, which is nice, considering how much other drama there has been surrounding Max Verstappen. I think he really needed this second place to kind of drive home his point that he should be allowed to kind of stick it to the FIA if he wants to.
I think I'm going to get onto that in a minute. I had a right moan about that yesterday in the other stream, but it's a good point actually on the first point you made there about the championship. It's unlikely, even with that car, Norris is going to win every race between now and the end of the season. It's also, you could argue, unlikely that Verstappen's going to finish P2 every race this season. But I think that's going to be Norris's problem, I think, is Piastri taking points away from Norris, Leclerc taking points away from Norris and McLaren, the Mercedes at some tracks maybe getting in there as well. I think that's going to be what ultimately, when we look back, could end up being what cost him the title rather than him not delivering results. Just, Ferrari this weekend, we'll get to them in a bit, should not have been where they were in qualifying. They were looking like they were in the mix. Had they been in the mix, it might not have been as comfortable for Norris today. So when Ferrari are on form and everybody else, it's going to be tough for Lando. So I'm not convinced that it will be, as you've just said there, P1, P2 all the way to the end of the season. But that's got to be a comfort for Max Verstappen that he's not got to, in a 50-50, he doesn't need to take any 50-50 chances against Lando if they're first and second. He can sort of go, right, okay, I want to win this. I could send it, but there's no point. I've got more to lose. Let's do an Alain Prost. Let's put my professor head on and let's focus on banking those points.
Absolutely. I think if I did this correctly again, I think Max only needs to outscore Lando Lando would need to outscore Max by 8.7 points anytime they're on the track together. So that's a decently large deficit to overcome consistently. So even if they're, further down the pack, that tightens up considerably as well. I would like to see a scrappier battle. I don't want to see Lando win, Max come P2. I don't want to predict the rest of the season. I want to see something crazy happen, especially considering Coda is the next race. I have been to that race so many times and it's almost always predictable, so I would like something fun.
Funnily enough, that's one of my favourite tracks of the year, even though it can be quite predictable.
Isn't it great?
It's track.
If you've never been in person as well, it's a really incredible track. Like, not to be biased about being from Texas, but also it rips.
Yeah, it's a good track, and I'm just thinking as well. Look at the rest of the season. Brazil, that's a lottery. Who knows? We could end up with Hakkinen versus Irvine at the Nürburgring in '99, fighting for a point or two, which can make all the difference. So yeah, I think we've got a lot of good races. There's a lot of different tracks coming up as well, which could really mix things up. But I'm looking forward to the rest of this season. Just a couple of points I've got in my notes on Max's race. Okay start, but was more concerned really with fending off Hamilton than challenging Norris. Lap 27 said rear tyres are quite bad now, then pitted on lap 29 for hards. I hate saying slow stop because 3.0 seconds for 4 new tyres is ridiculous. But he rejoined.
It's a lifetime.
But rejoined behind Leclerc. Wasn't very happy on the radio, but did get past him pretty swiftly. As for Sergio Perez, great start and the first lap to make up to P10. So good stuff there. But that's kind of where he stayed. Nice first lap scrap with Sainz and Tsunoda as well. Lap 16 said Colapinto was very good and difficult to pass, and then pitted on lap 28 or end of lap 28 for hard tyres. So Perez sort of got stuck behind Alonso. And towards the end, Hulkenberg there couldn't really get the moves done, which is frustrating again because he had a good start to get to P10. And I thought, hey, maybe if he's got to P10 by the end of the first lap or so, maybe he could challenge for, maybe 6th or 7th place. And it just never happened for Checo, which...
Oh, man, I know. I think that's part of what made this race brutal was the start was very good. Like, there were so many drivers that either bottled it or, jumped up a ton of positions and really impressed. And I was like, oh man, if the rest of this race is even a little bit like this start, it'll be a good one. And then we just kind of didn't do anything after that. And it's tough to see. It's one of those events where the qualifying mattered so much and Perez just wasn't on it in qualifying yesterday.
No, like I say, it's kind of in keeping with his season though, isn't it? He had pre-crash a really good weekend in Baku. So it's sort of frustrating to see him take that step back again this weekend. In fact, although I would say with Perez, that's kind of maybe not P10, but maybe P7, P8 is kind of where I expected Red Bull to be this weekend anyway. Yeah. So actually, maybe is this just Max delivering what we know Max has got, and Checo is more where you'd expect the car to be, or is it just Checo having a typical Checo 2024, bless him.
I think it's kind of a Checo 2024. It's one of those situations where, like, yeah, I think they were probably like seventh, eighth as a team today, and Max outperformed and Checo underperformed with what the car has on offer. But that is just kind of like Max knows how to make a car go fast. Checo, I don't know what happens, but it seems like anytime there's an obstacle, he's just not able to overcome it, which is really tough because he's one of my favorites. Not to be terribly biased, but it's really tough to see that he just can't kind of make anything happen, even when he gets a good start.
Yeah, because you feel like Max in that position probably does come through to a top
Yeah.
6 finish,
Yeah.
don't you? So it's a shame because I've been a big defender of Checo on this channel over the years, and I've had a lot of stick for it this year from people in the chat. But
Yeah, understandably.
I know from what we've seen, there's a driver in there, but maybe that time has gone. We'll find out in the coming races. But obviously, big question marks over Red Bull. We will talk about Ricciardo in a bit, but looks like from his interview at Sky, if he's not officially gone, sounds like he may have already been told something's going on, but we'll see. Got to be careful with these things. I know
those interviews were tough that he gave
were.
after the race.
It was almost, what's the word I'm looking for? It was sort of reflecting on his career almost, wasn't he, in the interview rather than the race? And you sort of, the way he was talking, you thought, he's probably gone. But some would argue, and I've had it in my other Discord server, that actually the one that should be going is Perez. But there seems to have been a change of narrative there, doesn't there? With sort of the last 18 months, Checo's been right about the car. Seems to have been what's coming from Red Bull now. So he might see out the season.
It's such a wild, the politics that go on in F1 just blow my mind sometimes. It's wild that we had so many races this season where it was like Checo needs to be gone, promote Daniel Ricciardo, and now we're in the boat of like maybe Checo can stay because the team recognized that it wasn't quite where it needed to be with the car, especially for Checo's driving style, and now we got to get rid of Daniel Ricciardo. Like it's just it's so much. It's so much.
It is, and I was just going to say that actually, I was thinking about Checo and his future, but actually, I guess I'll put this to you in chat. If you're Red Bull, from a non-sporting perspective, do you dare drop Sergio Perez a few weeks before Mexico?
I wouldn't. And I think a lot of folks don't. I mean, Checo comes with a lot of money. He comes with Mexico. Like the billionaires of Mexico are funding him and making sure that he has a ride. I think we don't take that into account quite often enough. It is one of those like kind of unsavory business side things about motorsport where it's not quite down to pure driving style, but also like how good are you for the marketing budget? Checo's so good. Like he brings a lot of money. Daniel Ricciardo ain't bringing that much money. Liam Lawson's not bringing that much money. And we got Mexico coming up. Like I feel like there would be a literal riot in the grandstands if he was gone.
Yeah, no, I think it. I think it makes sense. It's this. Who said it? I can't remember who said it, but somebody said something to me the other day about we've got this gap now before Austin for, again, shrugs reasons, and then we have got this other gap after Brazil. So there is a part of me that wonders if maybe he's safe till after Sao Paulo, and then maybe ahead of Vegas when they've got nothing to lose in the constructors, just put somebody else in there and see how they get on. Maybe bring Ricciardo back if he does stay as part of the team. But it's going to be a fascinating few weeks, that's for sure. But there are so many driver changes this year. It keeps throwing me off guard. My tables need to go on another screen. It's terrible. They're just so inconsiderate.
Right? I entered this season and I was like, man, it sucks that there are no rookies. And now I'm like, okay, can we calm down a little bit? We got too many folks coming in.
I just read a couple of comments in chat. I just saw Tim say, Singapore. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Oh, that's a good one.
We'll get to Magnussen in a bit. Ruby, hey Ruby, says yes, you drop Checo if you've already lost the constructors. When did this Danny Rick leaving story happen, says Mario? That's been the rumour pretty much all week since the sport arrived in Singapore, but his interviews with Sky and in the pen afterwards were very much reflecting on his career, and it sounds as though if he doesn't know, he's expecting to know very soon. But I don't know, I have no information, but I'd probably keep an eye on the news in the next few days, bearing in mind that they announced the day after or the first day of the summer break that they weren't changing driver lineups. So they might be sitting down tomorrow to have that conversation. But it doesn't look good for Danny Rick, which as a person is a shame. I get that he's a lovely guy, but it's a performance-based business, and he's obviously not delivering for RB. They're supposed to be a junior team. He's in his mid-30s, and it seems odd having him in that team. He was supposed to be being promoted to Red Bull if Checo wasn't ready. They obviously don't feel that's the route to go down, so it's kind of inevitable, really, and they do need to get a junior in there, and they've got to start thinking as well, I would say, Elizabeth, about 2026 a little bit. Get Lawson in now, see how he does for the first half of next year, and if he's not the answer, you've still got time to maybe assess someone like Hadjar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the situation with Daniel Ricciardo, why it's become such a talking point this weekend, is I think there was some rumors that Liam Lawson perhaps has in his contract a clause that if he wasn't signed to a seat with Red Bull by, I think, Singapore, he would be free to pursue other options with other teams. And obviously, he's a wanted asset. It's a little late this season, I think, for him to get anywhere, but he could embed himself with some other team. But I think you're absolutely correct. Red Bull is notorious for like having 1,000 junior drivers and then cutting them all and then having absolutely none. So we don't have a ton of guys that I would be like, yeah, next year we can absolutely put fresh faces in the car and kind of revamp the whole Red Bull program. Like, we kind of got to take baby steps. Liam Lawson, if we're going to do that route, we need to put him in now. If he pays off, great, he moves up to Red Bull. If he doesn't, Isaac Hadjar maybe has a chance. Maybe there's some other protege that gets signed out of nowhere, like another Max Verstappen, skips 3 junior series and comes in and becomes a dominant force. But, you never know.
Keep an eye on Arvid Lindblad. That's my tip for the future. Been following him.
What
for
a cool name! Like,
great name.
I don't know much about him as a driver, but like, what a sick name.
I'm going to save that segue, Jack, that you've just put in chat. That might work. We'll move on to Mercedes. We'll probably talk more about Red Bull shortly when we get to Danny Rick's race. But we'll hop on to Mercedes as the final of the top 3 teams. Where are we? Yeah, George Russell P4, Lewis Hamilton P6. Felt like that was about what they were shooting for today, so they probably maximised their position. I actually think George Russell did a really good job late on to fend off Charles Leclerc. Leclerc complaining on the radio, or not complaining on the radio, but saying on the radio Russell had great traction, so I think he's maybe saved some tyres for that final couple of laps to fight, so good driving there from George. And Lewis Hamilton, not thrilled on the radio today with a few of the decisions on strategy, but actually, again, good result in 6th place. There's not much he could have done versus Leclerc on much fresher tyres, so that's where they were shooting for today and they've hit that, then that's a win for them. If obviously not literally a win for them, but that is a win for them in that fight. So,
do you know what the logic was behind starting Hamilton on soft tires? I have to go dig into that because I was like, what are we doing with this one? This is a very interesting strategy that I don't think is going to pay off, and I don't think it really did.
I think the goal, and obviously I'm speculating a bit here, but I think the goal was probably, can we get Max off the line? Maybe gain a position, but I mean that's a bold shout, isn't it? To start on the soft tyres in Singapore on the hope of maybe getting Max Verstappen off the line. But actually, to be fair to Lewis as well, even though he started on the softs, he did run quite a long while on those and did a good job to manage them. So it could have been a lot worse. A lot of people on softs, or those that I think Ricciardo started on softs, pitted really early, lap 11. So he did well, did Hamilton. But yeah, no, I think probably to gain a place off the line, he was never going to challenge into turn 1 Lando Norris. But I mean, he was sort of almost alongside Max. He never looked like he was going through, because obviously that turn 2's inside then becomes outside for turn 3, doesn't it? But it was worth a go, I guess. But maybe compromise this race. Is that what you're thinking, Elizabeth?
I think so. I read that they were a couple laps used soft tires as well, so I was like, that is crazy. It's a really bold strategy, I think. Like, you really got to hope that something chaotic is going to go on at the front of the field so that you can sneak by, because Max is so good at starts. It didn't quite work. I mean, I can't fault them for trying. But at the same time, I was like, that is an interesting call. Let me be a fly on the wall for this debrief, because I want to hear about what we thought about that one.
I think we got some of that on the radio, didn't we? He wasn't thrilled.
No, he wasn't. And I can't blame him, because he managed the tires really well, but I can't imagine it was a fun feeling having to do that.
Ruby, thank you very much. Member for 15 months says, can we please find George Russell for talking too much on the radio? He is the most annoying moaner of all time. He needs to concentrate on his own car. That's Ruby. You won't know, Elizabeth. That's our resident Lewis Hamilton superfan. So,
Bless her.
And thank you as well for your super chat too. Ruby says, strategy was whack from Mercedes. Lewis still the GOAT. She also likes to make sure I say Lewis is the GOAT every stream. So there we go.
That's cute. I love that. George Russell does like to chat, though. I thought this race was very, very funny. He sounds like me when I'm halfway through a road trip and haven't eaten yet and get real grumpy.
That's fair enough. Yeah, no, he does. But he does give us some gems as well, like, you know, blimey and things like that. Very British in the way he approaches his frustrations at times. But yeah, I think he drove well today, George. I think Lewis did as well, all things considered. Just have a quick look through my notes. Thought he hit the wall at pit entry. He didn't, but he definitely did slide. Said he was struggling with the hard tyres already, having only done 5 laps on them. Went for a move on Tsunoda, but too deep, and Tsunoda got him back. That was on lap 25. Finished 85 seconds off the lead. Is that 22 seconds behind Leclerc? What was his pace? His pace was really... Well, maybe he was struggling on his tyres or just backed off and banked the position. I don't know. But that's a heck of a gap to Leclerc, given Leclerc only passed him with a few laps to go.
That's wild. That really is.
There you go. I'm trying to try... It can't have been any more than 10 or 12 laps or so for Leclerc got through.
It can't be. Couldn't have been too much. I have to go back and watch that bit. Keep an eye on it. See what happens.
Russell on team radio did complain that Hamilton needed to pick up the pace. According to Martin Brundle, was told to cool it and so backed off a little bit. Lap 35 had to go around the outside of Leclerc into turn 16 for P4, but went off track and yielded. Lap 52 complained of understeer and oversteer, but still kept going in a straight line. Kissed the wall at the rear on lap 53, but otherwise all good. So good stuff from Mercedes, but it's... I think I'd like to say this every stream, but it still doesn't compute in my mind, even though it's been 3 years that they're not at the front. For so many years they were. It still doesn't quite sit right with me, but we're getting a great fight at the front, so that's absolutely fine. Before I roll on then, Elizabeth, have you got anything in your notes for the top 3 teams that I might have missed? Or anything you want to say about the top 3 teams?
I don't think so, but I do want to double down on that point that it's so weird to see Mercedes not quite on the pace. Like those are my formative years of like really getting into F1 was just Mercedes dominance. And so here we are now where I'm like, what are we doing? This doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and I've got to say as well, just one other point, my favourite team radio of the day was George Russell asking for motivation. I thought Toto Wolff would go on the radio and be like, go George, or something like that. But no, that wasn't the kind of motivation he was after.
That was really funny. Like, again, just like me on a road trip, tell me I'm doing a good job, please. I just need to push through.
He was asking to play a Spotify playlist or something. A bit of Bat Out of Hell, see if it can pick up the pace a little bit. Yeah. George things. Let's just call them George things. Why not? I will say very quickly before we roll on, Brad just mentioned the swearing there. I forgot to come back to that about Max Verstappen. He got a community service for saying the F word in...
That's so funny.
A press conference.
That's so... What a punishment.
I said yesterday that the watch on the whole thing is just really pathetic to me because I'm not really that fussed about swearing. I try not to do it too much because I know not everyone does like it and some people do get offended by it. But I'm not really sure that I just believe that there's a big difference between saying something is effed and calling somebody something F or something like that. I just don't
absolutely.
call names, be nice to people, but I don't have a problem with people describing things in that way. But really weird that they've clamped down on that and that he's got community service. But good to hear that Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris have backed him. And I think Hamilton said he wouldn't be doing the community service, so he hopes Max doesn't. But I suspect some conversations behind the scenes. It's just very weird, Elizabeth, is what I'm kind of getting at here.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation. It was very... The community service in and of itself was like the funniest punishment I think they ever could have given anyone for anything. Like you have to go take time out of your day to go help people. And I am so curious to see what that would look like if Max does take that on. But I have to say his move in the press conference yesterday to just not answer anything and then be like, yeah, cool, let's go out here and I'm going to host my own little press conference. Oh, that was kind of sick. Like it was kind of a baller move.
It was. I enjoyed that. I was laughing. I was telling my dad about it because I was helping him with some DIY, and he was laughing his ass off about it. He thought it was so funny that he just kind of basically as if he'd been arrested and he was just doing a no comment interview, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny. I can't say anything. I might get in trouble. I'm going to go outside and I'll say whatever I want.
That's what I want. I absolutely want that one. Just very weird, but maybe he'll have to go scrape some chewing gum off the tables in the FIA or something. I don't know, but I'd be surprised if he does it. I suspect it'll all blow over, but we moan these drivers are too PR, and then when they aren't PR, people are still moaning. So it's like just let them get on with it. Just don't abuse each other. That's my take on that. Let's roll on though to my team, Ferrari. Oh boy, what a weekend!
It was certainly an event.
Yeah, they were there. Leclerc qualified ninth, got his lap time deleted. A lot of people made a lot of fuss about the lap time being deleted, but actually, as I said yesterday in the qualifying watch along, I think he would have only been around 7th place anyway, so it was still going to be a disaster. Started ninth, Sainz crashed in qualifying, started 10th. Not a great start from Sainz actually in the opening lap, dropped to P12, but came through quite nicely, pitted on lap 13 to kind of undercut people, slightly slow on the stop at 2.6, but did want to cover Albon as well and just got in front of him, but undercut Leclerc at one stage, undercut Alonso, Hulkenberg. It was a great strategy call, to be fair. Yes, I said that about Ferrari, and he came through quite nicely. That was kind of it really for Sainz, ended up P7. I think that's a decent recovery. And Charles Leclerc.
Absolutely.
Sorry, Elizabeth. Just I'm on one of my notes now. Charles Leclerc, lap 7, said he took a bit of carbon fibre to the part of his left-hand side of his car, but told the car was fine. Something to keep an eye on. Nothing really came of that. Felt brakes were reacting differently as well after cooling. Finally got past Alonso on lap 25 for P6. Nice move to pass Hulkenberg for P4 at turn 16 on lap 29. Then pushed hard to try and sort of beat Sainz, Alonso and co. Finally pitted end of lap 36, I think, for hard tyres. And then rejoining P8 ahead of Hulkenberg, but behind Alonso and Sainz, and then overtook Alonso. Team orders for Sainz to get out of the way, which was the right thing to do. Sainz complied, and then he chased after the two Mercedes and got through to eventually finishing 5th between the two Mercedes, beating Hamilton and 1.3 behind Russell, who again, I think drove really well to kind of keep him at bay there. But let's go crap Saturday, okay Sunday. But I have to say, again, as a Ferrari fan, I look at this one as, honestly, a bit of an opportunity miss because they looked really quick on Friday.
Yeah, that's exactly what Carlos Sainz said afterward to the media as well. Like the chance was on the table here to really make something happen from this race, and they just didn't quite capitalize on it, which is unfortunate. It's a decent enough recovery, but it feels weird that we're like, yeah, Ferrari, they feel like they should finish 5th. Like I feel like they probably should be scrapping a little bit harder than that, but they did what they could.
It's just Ferrari things. It just never seems to go
I know.
swimmingly, does it? It's just so annoying. But yeah, no, I think the pace in the car this weekend to be at least on the podium. I'm not convinced Norris was beatable today. It's just one of those days where he was just almost perfect, apart from his brushes with the wall, of course. But so I don't even think if Ferrari had been up there, they would have won. But I think they could have been on the podium, which again, we're talking about the championship battle. If Leclerc's second today and Sainz is third, that's a huge swing towards Lando Norris. So Norris will be frustrated they weren't up there too. But I just wish they got it right this weekend, because it was a track that I thought they'd go well at, and they didn't. I mean, again though, good recovery is about all I can say. But as Addy Boy just said in chat, all lost in quali for Ferrari. That was where the damage was done. It's a street track, for goodness sake. So you're starting 9th and 10th, you're going to struggle to win from there. So actually 5th and 7th, not bad. Bit of a shame Leclerc couldn't get Russell at the end. Just for my predictions, really. Then that would have been an extra point for me. But yeah, that's all I've got on Ferrari, really. Not an awful lot else, Elizabeth.
There really wasn't much else. Charles Leclerc was frustrated on the radio, and his team had to tell him to calm down, which is exactly what anyone who's frustrated wants to hear. Just keep your head on your shoulders, calm down, don't make a big thing of it. I think they were right. He was right to be frustrated. I think Ferrari was about where they could have been. They did not do a Ferrari and end up further back down the field, so I would consider that a good day.
I will take that as a win. Lando can keep his. I will take Ferrari not falling backwards as a win for this one. Thank you again to Ruby for another super chat. It says, as a Ferrari fan to be, what's going on with tyre temperatures? Were they really off by 10 degrees? We were hoping for a 1644 podium. Tyre temperatures. I've not got anything on tyre temperatures.
So this
My
was during
notes.
qualifying. When they sent Carlos out, allegedly the front two tires were 10 degrees colder than the rear, which was what led to his crash. But it was Carlos wasn't sure if that was what the case was. Charles was not sure if that was what the case was, and they're kind of going to make sure that they look into that before we get to Austin. Whatever the case was, there was a definite issue with the front tires not being warmed enough, and Carlos Sainz got into some traffic and then had some issues with other cars on track when it came time to set his fast lap. So it just kind of fell apart after that.
Yeah, now you've said about now that's in qualifying, that does ring a bell. That's concerning though, isn't it? So they definitely need to get on top of that
Yeah, that's not good.
for Austin. Imagine that problem in Vegas in the middle of the night.
Dear God, that
Can't lose
is
10 degrees
not
there.
ideal.
Goodness me, yeah. Hopefully that's sorted. They definitely hope that's sorted for Austin. So no idea what that could be, but I'm sure Ferrari will get on top of that. He says,
You
grimacing.
hope so.
With all the confidence in the world. Let's move on to Aston Martin then. Otherwise, I'll sit and moan about Ferrari for hours to Elizabeth. It's just the way I operate, I'm afraid. It's so many
I understand.
years. So many
Listen, I
years.
was a Manor Marussia fan for a very long time. I understand the pain.
I hope we're not quite at that level yet at Ferrari, but
Not yet. No,
some
not
weekends
yet.
it
You
feels
at least
like
have some hope. If I had had hope at that time, I think I would have been a much more miserable person.
That's true. Hope is all we've got. Aston Martin, I've not got a lot in my notes at all. Alonso held position between Hulkenberg and Leclerc through the first stint really nicely. Pitted under that 25 once Leclerc had got past. Ended up P8. Stroll, pretty miserable weekend really, down in 14th place. So I'll read you their sound bites. So Fernando Alonso says, it was a very physical race today, but we executed everything well and scored some good points. We tried the undercut strategy by stopping a few laps before the others, and it worked out quite well for us. In truth, it has been a difficult car to drive all weekend, but he still managed to get P8 because it's Fernando Alonso, and we've done very well to finish only a few seconds behind a Ferrari. Lance Stroll says, difficult weekend in Singapore. On my laps to the grid, I felt some strange vibrations, so the team worked quickly to replace a set of brakes as a precaution. It was a huge effort from the mechanics out there, so big thanks to them for getting that sorted so quickly in this heat. We knew it was going to be a tough race, and we suffered from similar issues to yesterday, grip and balance. Austin is a different circuit, so we hope it will be better suited to our car. So yeah, I forgot about the Stroll issues on the grid, so maybe something there in his performance today, but that doesn't explain why he was where he was yesterday, P17 in qualifying. But I feel like I could do this in every single stream. Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen, when he was on the grid, used to do it in his latter years. Just sort of, I see bits of him when he's battling with Leclerc and Hulkenberg, and I make it the odd note here, like I did there. Not really much to see, but then all of a sudden he's just a P5 or a P8 or something like that, and you go, how did you get there? So just another Alonso.
He's
drive,
inevitable.
And, yeah, I love that. He's inevitable. Perfect.
Where are those sound bites from? Were those audio ones or were those written ones?
They're on their press release quotes, but they call them sound bites.
Perfect.
Even though they're not
Okay, I was going to
sound.
say that's a awfully wordy for Lance Stroll. That man never strings more than like 4 words together when you talk to him after a race.
Yeah, that's all their press release stuff. So I imagine, I'm sure they've both sat down and written those word for word, and it's got nothing to do with PR. Anybody?
Yeah, absolutely not. There's no one back there padding it out, just making sure it's good.
How's your race, Lance? Yeah, fine. Right, okay. Let's fill this out a bit, Lance. Yeah, but
let's get a paragraph, please.
Anything you've got on Aston Martin, Elizabeth?
Not really. It was nice to see Fernando make something happen. After the race, he told media he thought he was a 15th or 16th place car. So to finish 8th, that is a very good finish. Allegedly, they're going to have some upgrades coming for Austin, but whether or not those do anything remains to be seen.
They need them. That's for sure.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, a 15th, 16th place car. Wow, that's
they were. It was
impressive.
not a good looking race for them for some reason, but it's good to see that Fernando was able to not be a 15th place car, so he did all right.
It seems to be my phrase of the day, but obviously a win for Alonso then, really.
Yep.
Maybe
he's just making it sound worse, so we all can be like, oh yeah, Fernando Alonso, he had a 15th place car and he finished 8th. How incredible! I would do that if I was an F1 driver.
Yeah. Oh, this car's basically a bus. I was picking
Exactly.
people up on the way to the shops, and I still finished P8. No, it's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, just Alonso doing Alonso. I love the he's inevitable. I'm going to take that now. That's just
It's
Fernando Alonso.
yours.
He's great. Just doesn't seem to slow either, does he? Just always quick, always on the ball. Defends hard when he needs to, backs off when he needs to. It's just so much experience. It just works brilliantly and looks good for P9 in the drivers, I guess, if I'm trying to flesh this out a bit more. Unlikely to be caught by Hulkenberg and probably not going to catch Perez. So 62 points, ninth place, top 10 for Alonso.
It's not bad.
It'll do. Haas, on the subject of Hulkenberg, cracking weekend from Nico Hulkenberg. I've put in my notes here. And a cracking start as well to take P5 from Piastri, but was repassed on turn 7 on lap 1. As I say, dropped back to 6th. Kind of stayed there for a little while, pitted end of lap 29. And that was really it for him. He sort of spent most of his race with either Alonso behind him or just in front of him. So it's kind of Alonso Hulkenberg in that fight, which I did say in the qualifying watch along yesterday, that is the battle to watch, Alonso and Hulkenberg, and I was right. So, point there for Sean. It's rare. So great job from Hulkenberg to take 2 points. Kevin Magnussen was going okay before he got the puncture where he hit the wall on lap 50 on the exit of turn 5. Did a good job to get it back to the pits without too much damage. Put the soft tyres on. 2018, fastest lap. 2019, fastest lap. Could he do it this time? Yes, he did. But he cut the corner. So he had his lap time deleted and didn't get to keep it. So K-Mag. It would have been good to see him get fastest lap on his return, actually, from his ban. That would have been quite cool. And that was pretty much it. Retired with a couple of laps to go. I assume maybe a little bit of damage from I'm going to look for the press release in a minute, but a bit of damage from the puncture, or maybe just save the car for those last couple of laps and bring him in, because it was pretty much race over him from that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there was much he was going to make out of that race. Might as well just come in and save the equipment and hope for the best. But Nico Hulkenberg, Haas is really going to miss that man next year.
I agree. He's been, for me, one of the... He may not be winning races. He may not be doing anything spectacular, but he's been one of the standout drivers this year, particularly in that midfield for me.
Absolutely. It's incredible to see. Like I just don't think I ever I don't think I had any hopes for Nico Hulkenberg when he went to Haas, because I was like, oh, that's a bad way to like kind of round out maybe the rest of your F1 career, but it seems like he's done really well. Interesting to see perhaps how he'll do with Audi, if that will have any good luck, if he'll be able to bring good things to that team. But like, he does a really, really good job outperforming what I think the car maybe has in its capability.
K-Mag says, I got a puncture. There you go. Sometimes you hit a rough spot and it cuts the tyre. We weren't quick on the hard tyre. He was complaining that early on, wasn't he? Tried to do the opposite strategy and go long and hope for a safety car in the middle of the window, which didn't happen. Had to cut it short on the hard compound, and then I got the puncture at the end. We've had good pace at recent races, and we're in a good spot with the car. Have an upgrade coming for Austin, and we have every race to look forward to for the rest of the season. I'm going to miss that man. And Nico Hulkenberg says, I'm happy to get points. There are a few things to look into and review from our side, but otherwise a clean race. It wasn't very eventful. Oh, tell me about it. But it was very stressful keeping a Red Bull behind for the whole of the second stint. It was tough to bring it home. We managed to do so, and I'm happy. A bit of redemption for last week as well, he says. So, where he had his little weird moment at the end of the race, which I still don't fully understand. But a couple of points for Haas in their battle with Williams. No points for Williams this weekend, so that's a gain for them, so that's good. Also, RB not scoring, so Haas now on. I've just looked at the championship now. It's caught me off guard. Now on for P6, they're only 3 points behind RB. Where's that come from?
Well, that's it. That's fun. Midfield spicing things up out there.
Yeah, RB 34 points, Haas 31 points. And if you're asking me to take a punt now, I would say based on current form, Haas are favourites for that, even though they are 3 points adrift.
Mm-hmm. And that's for sixth place in the championship?
Yeah, for sixth, for Haas.
Wow, that's not bad. It's not bad.
They
haven't looked that good since 2018.
I was just going to say, is it that long, 2018, since they were right up in that top 5?
Yeah, 2017 or 2018 was the 5th place in the championship. Yeah, it's been a while.
Here goes Sean with another classic. Where does the time go, Elizabeth? It's unbelievable. 2018 seems like a year or two ago.
I know.
Oh, crazy. Thank you to Ruby again.
Things happen so fast. They happen all the time.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't handle it. Ruby Super Chat says K-Mac had one job today, bring out the safety car. So good stuff there for Ruby. I don't think bringing out the safety car for K-Mag was going to happen. I don't know if I've got a bit of lag here suddenly.
My internet seems to have caused an issue. It's probably my bad.
Well, I can hear you, so that's okay. That's the win. That's all we need. Just hoping everything goes okay.
Excellent.
I'll give you a shout if any problem. We'll fly through these last few teams, and this, as always, shouldn't take too long. Alex Albon for Williams lost 4 places at the start and was wide through turn 1 and 2. Complained over the radio that Franco just dive bombed. What is he doing? But looked hard but fair to me. So I don't know what the complaint was. I suppose when your teammates steam at the inside, it's a little bit nerve wracking. But I think Franco was okay there. Pitted end of lap 11 to try and undercut the.
When's the last time Alex Albon has had a teammate that could battle him, though? I don't think Alex Albon is used to having a teammate that can pass him.
Latifi had 1 or 2 races, didn't he?
Just a few. Yeah, not much.
Not much. Yeah. I was just going to say about the car overheating at the end there. Possibly something in the ducts is what Anthony Davidson said, but it was a power unit overheating issue for Williams. They confirmed that's a game over for Albon. Colapinto, that little dive bomb up to P9, I think drove really, really well today again. He's impressed me a lot, Elizabeth, has Colapinto, and surprised me as well.
I also have been impressed and surprised. I don't know. I mean, he really kind of made this big leap up to Formula One, and it's telling what drivers are able to handle that pressure and which ones aren't. I think he's been able to handle it really well. His first race in Monza, I was like, that's really good. Let's see how he goes. Baku was incredible. He, really showed that he can do this twice in a row. Now here we are after Singapore, 3 races in a row where I think he's kind of outperformed the car or done at least exactly as what the car can do. I like him. I really want to see him stay. He made it difficult for Perez to pass. He did some incredible moves at the start. Let's make sure he's around.
Yes, Sauber, looking at you, staring.
Please.
Yeah, I'd like to see him stay on the grid. But again, I've said this a lot. We don't know what's going to happen. He might be awful in the next few races and that all changes. But at the moment, I think he might be making a few people have a look, which is good. There was one moment that he was almost investigated for. Stewards noted, cut the corner in a back with Gasly, then overtook him down the next straight. I think that's what the replay was showing, but they took no further action there. So good stuff from Colapinto. I'll just have a quick check, actually, of the Williams press release just to see if Alex has said anything. Cooling issue with the power unit ended our race. However, a difficult start being forced a little wide. No mention of his teammate there. Sometimes you have a car that isn't capable of scoring points. So when you do, it's very satisfying. But this weekend was the opposite. We had a super quick car and we should have had points. So it's frustrating. And Franco Colapinto, pity we didn't finish in the top 10 after being there at the beginning of the race. Was possible to stay in the points and keep Perez behind with it being a difficult track to overtake. However, we didn't defend as well as we could have. By stopping as late as we did, we lost a place. It is what it is, and the win and lose together as a team. So yeah, just that's a good point. Actually, was in that mix with Sergio Perez quite a lot in that race. He was only 1.6 behind at the end. So I think that says a lot about Colapinto, but I also think it says a hell of a lot more about Sergio Perez's day, to be honest.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Perez was not at his finest form, but Colapinto, he's done so good. He's done a really great job.
I'm going to come back to Daniel Ricciardo. We'll save that for the end. Let's hop on to Yuki Tsunoda, though. Lost 3 places at the start. Frustrated the team weren't swapping positions because he felt it was faster on a softer tyre, which he was. Team told to close up and then swap positions, but Tsunoda's point was that they were already close enough and his tyres were going off. Anything else in there? Not really. Swapped on lap 42. Ended up P12 from P8. So probably quite disappointed, actually, Tsunoda, to go from 8th to 12th. But I do feel like RB have sort of dropped off a little with that pace that we saw earlier in the year. So I think maybe that's about where they are, but not much more on Tsunoda really and RB.
No, not a very compelling one for Tsunoda.
No, I've not even got the quotes either, I don't think, which is just annoying. How dare you, Red Bull?
Taking their time.
No, wait. Oh, no, that's from qualifying. I can read you the qualifying quotes if you want, but it feels irrelevant in a race reaction. But who knows? We'll come back to Ricciardo in a moment. It is not going to take long to do these two. I can promise you that. Alpine, Ocon started 15th, finished in 13th. Good start in the first lap to gain a couple of places to move up to P13, basically where he stayed 35 seconds behind Yuki Tsunoda. Did he pit more than once? Could that be why? No, he did not. So just no pace in the Alpine again this weekend, as reflected by Pierre Gasly. Started 18th and finished 17th. So would have been 18th with the retirements and had Ricciardo not made the late stop. So pretty much a miserable day for Alpine. And Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu for Sauber. Chat know what I'm going to say. They were there. They existed. Thanks for turning up, guys.
They weren't last.
That's true. That's here's the saying. That's a win for them.
Thank goodness for the retirements. They look a little bit better on the finishing board.
They do. Tough race, says Valtteri Bottas. Had issues with my front brakes overheating, which led to some front locking and eventually cost me time. Worked well as a team to stay with the cars ahead in the opening stage, but we just couldn't quite manage it. Where were they in the end? Quite a way off, I think, weren't they? 10 seconds, which for Sauber doesn't seem too bad, actually, to be fair. And
you're not wrong.
Guan Yu says, I think today was a more positive race. Okay, compared to recent outings, as we showed that we could fight better with our competitors on high fuel. Clearly something we need to work on is our one-lap pace to start from a higher position, but overall it was a good race without mistakes, executing the plan well as well. So that's those final two teams. I'll ask you, Elizabeth. Stuart rarely has anything, so I'm not sure if you will, but anything on Alpine or Sauber before we get to Danny Rick?
Not particularly. Alpine and Sauber, I was reading through some of the media center quotes after the race, and both of them are gunning for upgrades in Austin. Both of them are not convinced that the upgrades will actually do a whole lot of anything to make their cars better. So, it is what it is. They're going to just piddle around, and we'll see them wave as they go by.
Eesh, that sounds... Oh, God. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Poor Zhou Guanyu was like, we've got upgrades coming, but I don't know if I'm getting any of them. I think they're just going to be for Valtteri, but we really need some upgrades. I was like, you poor thing. The second driver battle is tough.
It is. I've got nothing. In fact, you know what? Sighted Canvas has a review. Sauber were green.
Yeah, that's it.
What is it? Stuart always says something like, nothing in his notes. For a team that you can't miss on track, I've not got many notes and don't appear to have seen them or something like that. So, but yeah,
that's so funny.
About right, isn't it, for Sauber? So yeah, I'm sure Pascal, who is our resident Sauber fan, usually hops in with a comment, so I'll keep an eye on the chat. But Kieran Grist has asked a question. It leads us quite nicely on to what we're going to say. Says, I'll be watching the stream later today, but what is with all the Ricciardo talk about him being dropped? A couple of races ago, he was meant to be Perez's replacement, and now he may be gone. I mean, isn't that just F1 and in particular Red Bull's sister team driver lineup in a nutshell right there? Was supposed to be Perez's replacement a few weeks ago. Now he's going to be gone. So I'll just read through my race notes for Ricciardo. Not really much to say. There are some positives. First driver to pit at the end of lap 10 to go from soft to medium. Slowish stop at 3.5. Overtaken by both Ocon and Magnussen in one corner, and then Stroll got him as well. Pitted end of lap 47 for fresh soft tyres and rejoined 19th and last. Pitted for a third time for soft tyres to maybe go for fastest lap, I wrote in my notes. He went for it and he got it. Potentially crucially, taking the fastest lap point off of Lando Norris, and a nice way to, I've written here, potentially sign off. He also got the Driver of the Day award from fans, which, number one, is nice for him, and number two, just continues to prove why that vote is completely pointless to make any reference to or even to pay any attention to, because if he was Driver of the Day,
you just do whatever you want.
Exactly. So we've kind of talked about it already, Elizabeth, but before we sort of finish this run through, I think, although we don't know for sure and anything could change between now and whenever they decide to make their decision, but it does look as though he's gone. I mean, after what was that? Was it Belgium before the summer break? It was. After Belgium, it really felt like Perez was gone as well, and then the next day he was staying. So these things can change. But the interviews he did afterwards, reflecting on his career, talking about maybe not being able to achieve what he wants to in F1. Does he want to stick around in that midfield? Is the seat available at Red Bull? It just all sounded very much like a thanks for everything, guys, I'm off. So it does look like he's gone, which, again, personality-wise, it's a shame, but performance-wise, yeah, I can't really argue with it.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Earlier in the summer, I believe Helmut Marko was talking about how the shareholders in VCarb were not happy about Daniel Ricciardo being there just because they were sold effectively on this being a junior development team. Daniel Ricciardo is no longer a junior and should not need more development as a driver. So there was this talk, I think, as the Perez rumors about Perez being dropped were happening, where Helmut Marko was saying, you're looking at the wrong place. But also Perez should be dropped because that's Helmut Marko and that's what he does. He likes everyone to be on their toes. I think the big difference, even with all of the rumors about Perez was very adamant that he was going to be on the grid. He got to Belgium and was like, I'm going to be here, so you can stop asking me questions about it. I will not answer them, and I will see you after the break. Daniel Ricciardo does not have that same kind of confidence. Maybe it's just a difference in personalities. Maybe he is aware of something that we don't know. But it's a tough way to go. I think that's the biggest thing from my end. If this is like I've been gunning for him to bid adieu to the team. He's not done as well as I think he's needed to, and we do have younger talent that's kind of just sitting out in the wings, hoping and praying that a seat will open up. And there's not many seats in the Formula One world to begin with, let alone new ones. So, I'd like to see Lawson in, but I would like to also not see Daniel Ricciardo like beaten down on the way out the door.
Yeah, I sort of I look at the fact we've got 6 races left as well, and I think I do want to see Liam Lawson in that car. I am one of those who believe that he should already be in that car. But I look at 6 races to go, and I know it's not the way Red Bull always operate or any team operates. People, it's a ruthless sport, but I do think, could we not have maybe had an announcement this week that Ricciardo's retiring at the end of the season, then these final 6 races could be a farewell tour, and then Liam Lawson gets in next year. But I guess, like I said earlier, they need to assess their options for next season and beyond, don't they? And there's all these rumours about Max Verstappen maybe leaving, so maybe we don't know. Maybe that's hurried things on along behind the scenes. Maybe they've thought, right, we need to start getting these young drivers through because there's a chance, as unlikely as it may seem, that Max may jump ship at some point to Aston Martin or to Mercedes, whatever. So we need to get these young drivers through, and Danny Rick is holding that up. He is the cork in the bottleneck, isn't he? I suppose. So they've got to make that move. But it does feel very ruthless. But at the same time,
it's Red Bull, and Red Bull has been ruthless with its drivers. This isn't out of character. Like, we've seen this happen before. There have been a lot of drivers where I was like, Red Bull, you probably could have given them like to the end of the season or until like a nice big juicy break in the middle of the season before you canned them, replace them with someone else. But that's not how they operate.
Does it seem a little bit odd that they didn't just do this after the summer break to you?
It does. I think there was so much focus on Perez around the summer break that they weren't quite looking at Daniel Ricciardo. And it's a very strange situation because it depends so much on all of this behind the scenes stuff that we don't have access to. And for as embedded as a media person might be, you don't know what's going on in Christian Horner's head or Helmut Marko's head as to why. I think Daniel Ricciardo got a little bit of a benefit just because he is close with Christian Horner. So he's got an advocate in his corner, but an advocate in your corner will only last you so far.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fair. I will say as well, I like to say this a lot. This is the F1 word, so I understand that maybe that's a bit weird, but he will leave, but that doesn't mean it's the end. There are so many brilliant racing series out there, as Elizabeth, I'm sure, will preach until forever. There are some great racing series out there. So if it hasn't worked in F1 with his return to RB or Red Bull, maybe he'll go off somewhere and give it a go. I don't know why. I really don't. But I feel like he'd fit quite nicely at NASCAR just as a person. I don't know why.
He does have that bombastic personality. Like I do think as a personality he would fit into NASCAR. I just don't like this man. He's been so like he just hates oval racing. Like he's just scared of the concept, which I respect it. It is its own discipline that takes time to master. So I understand that he doesn't think he can kind of come over here and just kill it all at once. But like he'd be so good there. Maybe he just needs to invest in a team or something, and then we can have him be like, around but just not driving.
Maybe he could buy Alpine and just race for himself.
Exactly.
Problem solved. That's the field then. I know you've got to shoot off in a moment, Elizabeth, so we'll just do a very quick, just get through a super chat as well very quickly. From Pascal, I said Pascal will turn up. Says, satisfied with P15 and P16 for Sauber, as I expect to be plumb last. Coach was on my birthday weekend, so my wishes upgrades on C44. And also welcome to Elizabeth. Thank you very much, Pascal, and happy birthday for you, for Coach.
Happy birthday indeed.
Your super chat. Yes, so before you go, Elizabeth, I'm going to put you on the spot. Chat. One surname, as always. Who was your driver of the day, Elizabeth? It was Ricciardo got the official one. I'm guessing it's not Ricciardo. But who was your driver of the day?
Lando Norris. I don't think I would normally give him one, but I pick Lando Norris.
There you go. Easy as that. Normally we've got a lot of umming and ahhing for 20 minutes first because we're not sure which way to go. Elizabeth knows. I
know what's up.
I think Norris is a fair shout, and obviously. Almost, again, he had the brushes with the wall, but largely almost a perfect weekend. But I'm just to be a bit different. I'm actually going to go with Verstappen. I think I don't like the phrase. I don't like the phrase outdrove the car because I think if the speed's there, but he got everything out of that car this weekend. I never expected him to be top 10. I didn't even put him on the podium in my predictions. I didn't think he'd be anywhere near it this weekend. So to be second place, I'm going to throw him in there as a curveball, but also, because I like to do this, give a nod to Oscar Piastri to get through to third place and Charles Leclerc to come back to P5 as well. And Hulkenberg, possibly one of the drivers of the weekend as well, it's worth saying.
Mm-hmm. It sucks that this race wasn't very fun to watch because there were a lot of really good drives within it. If you look at it from like a microcosmic level, but overall it was just kind of a stinker.
Yeah, I said at the start, Dell.
You can't win all of them.
No, Dell said it was worst of the year after Monaco because Monaco is his own thing. I think nobody expects Monaco to be good.
Yeah. This is why I love the Indy 500 because I always just go there and then I don't have to pay attention to Monaco. And then when the race is inevitably bad, I don't feel bad that I missed it.
No, that's true. It's just not worth getting out of bed for, is it? Really, you can just watch it later.
It's not.
Well, I'll let you get off, Elizabeth, because I know you've got a lot to do post race. But thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully, this isn't your last one. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. I will stick around and answer questions from this lot in chat for a good half hour. But it was a great chat, and like I say, hopefully have you on another one, and hopefully I'll do my best to do some kind of rain dance equivalent or whatever to actually get a good race for you to talk about next time. But I enjoyed the chat anyway. It was good stuff.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute blast. Hopefully, again, this will not be my last time. You're not getting rid of me. You're welcome. Hopefully the next one will be a little bit more interesting, though, and then we can actually have some juicy gossip to dig into.
They've been trying to get rid of me for 7 years, so I shouldn't worry. You'll be here for a while.
Happening.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, and I'll whiz you a message later just to see how it went. But thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, y'all.
Cheers, Elizabeth. Bye. Yes, thank you very much to Elizabeth. I'm going to do the Q&A on my own today. Elizabeth is US editor for Planet F1, so she's got to head off and crack on with all the post-race stuff. So we had her for an hour today. It was good to introduce you to Elizabeth. She's really passionate, knows her Formula One, knows her motorsport. Definitely give her a follow on Twitter. I'll pop the links on my Twitter, or you can go to the app that I've put there. Absolutely awesome to talk to her on stream. So if you've got any questions, I'll do that again. I'll do the pause for the timestamp. If you have any questions, please do pop them in chat. I'll read some of your drivers of the day now as well and just see what was going on there. So, Ruby, can't believe it, says Hamilton. Big Man Pat says Norris. Dark Squid says Leclerc. Hank says Max. Ped has gone with Piastri. Ruby's also mentioned the Lizard. I am 38 years old, as I've mentioned a few times. I was laughing so hard at that in in FP3. That was one of the funniest things I've seen all season. Kyver says Piastri. Sarah's gone with Lando. Del, again, the Lizard is a good shout. Pascal's gone for Hulkenberg. Piastri for the spectacular overtakes again, says a Yinker. They were great moves on the Mercedes, weren't they? Go to Pinto, says Zach. That's sticking, is it? We'll go with that. Clansom says Norris from a Hamilton supporter, nearly a Grand Slam. Slick says Max. Anushka says Hulkenberg. I'm not reading it like that. I know what you want me to do, but I'm not doing it. And also Verstappen. Brad says my heart says Danny, but my brain says Max. Nick says Verstappen. Kevin's got to go. Take care. I think you've probably gone, Kevin, but take care anyway, mate. I hope to catch you on the next stream. I didn't pick Leclerc for that. I know. I feel like I can't keep picking Ferraris though, Ruby. I'm going to get told off by people. Sighted Canvas can't choose this time. And anybody else putting one in? Unhinged Gaming says Alonso. That's a fair shout. Maybe not my driver overall of the day, but definitely worth a nod for his performance. Letox says the same as well for Alonso. Good drive for Fernando. And Wingcap says Liam Lawson. That's not a bad shout. I like that. Rossi says Leclerc for me. No, the Leclerc one's fair. Leclerc is fair, but I just feel like Verstappen extracted everything out of that car. This weekend, and I wasn't expecting you anywhere near the sharp end, so to be P2. But it's a tough pick. I think Elizabeth made the point herself that, a lot of good drives in what was a bit of a meh race, so it was a difficult pick today. So Verstappen, Leclerc, Hulkenberg, you've got to put Norris in there as well. Warren, thank you very much for your super chat. It says Honey Badger, last of the late breakers, Vettel Slayer, Max's only teammate to beat him, beat Hulkenberg at Renault, then wiped Ocon, redemption at Monaco. Oh, that, Warren, thank you very much for your super chat. That redemption at Monaco was such a moment, wasn't it? It really, really was. Please do drop a like, by the way. We're nearly at 100, 288 if you're still here. Let's get that out into the triple digits. That'd be great. Please do subscribe as well if you are new. Unlike when I was doing this as a bit of a side hustle in the last couple of years, there will be content between now and the next race. I'll give you all a minute to recover from that shocking news. There'll be the winners and losers tomorrow. There'll be something out, I think, Thursday. Could be Wednesday, but probably Thursday. Then hoping to get something out Saturday as well. But I am going to be taking a couple of days off over the weekend for the first time since the PF1 deal went through, getting a bit of a break. So should be something out Thursday and Friday. Then, of course, there'll be other stuff in the run-up to COTA as things happen. Probably going to be some news this week as well. And then, of course, we'll have live streams, the qualifying watch-along, the preview, the race reaction, the winners and losers for COTA as well. So lots to come between now and the end of the season. So don't worry, I'm not going anywhere for the next few weeks. Thank you to Daniela, to Ranji for subscribing today, to Job as well, who I think subscribed yesterday, but I'll give you a shout out anyway. But yeah, please do sub, likes as well, greatly appreciated as well. Just a quick refresh and make sure the stream is caught up with chat so I can take your questions. I suspect quite a few around Danny Rick today are going to crop up. I mean, let me know as well what you think about that. Do you think it's the right time? End the poll as well. Rate the Singapore Grand Prix. Average okay, 48%. Bad, 20%. Good, 20%. And great, we're watching something else at 10%. It's all about opinions. I like I say, lower end of average for me, but I think that's a fair vote. Definitely. Rossi says, do you think McLaren have what it takes to hold on to the Constructors' Championship? Yes, I do. I don't think they're going to... If Ferrari had turned up and got it right this weekend with the pace they had, maybe they could have kept themselves in the mix. I do think McLaren have got it. I think that the battle we're looking at now is Red Bull versus Ferrari potentially. Although, as I said yesterday, Red Bull are more confident they'll be better at tracks like Austin and Mexico and Sao Paulo, or Interlagos. So that might change things. But as of today, I think Ferrari have a shot of P2, but I don't think McLaren will be stopped. And although I know this stat and we talk about it all the time, it still catches me off guard. They've not won the Constructors since 1998 because, of course, Ferrari won it in 99, a split championship with Hakkinen winning the drivers and Ferrari taking the Constructors. Didn't win it in 2007. Ferrari took that when there was the tight fight there. Obviously, we know why, Spygate and all that. And then 2008, Ferrari took that despite Hamilton winning the title. So it has really been that long since McLaren won it. So maybe there is some scepticism there. Maybe there should be some about whether they can hang on. But I do think McLaren should be okay. 41 points the gap now. Piastri's on form. Norris is on form. Perez isn't on form, really. Verstappen is this weekend and will be at other tracks, so maybe he could be the difference. But when you've got Norris and Piastri on top form, scoring the big points pretty much every weekend, I don't see how anybody competes with that. So I'll go with I'll go with McLaren for that one. Thank you very much to the Bry Guy for your super chat. Says, is Albon, what is Colapinto doing dive bomb? The 2024, they raced me so hard. He better get used to it with Sainz coming in. Good point, actually, on the Sainz thing. Yeah, bit of an odd radio message, I think. I know I looked at it again purposely before, purposely before I went live because I wanted to just double check, but I don't actually see anything wrong in the move that Franco pulled. I think that was a very fair move. Hard, but it's the start of a race. You know, he's got to go for it, and he went for it, and it paid off. So I don't think it was worth the complaint. But I guess, again, when you've got your teammates steaming up the inside, it's a bit squeaky bum time, isn't it? So I think, yeah, fine from Colapinto. Maybe Albon just a bit frustrated that he got caught out a little bit. Perez says it's the teammate. He has a point to not dive bomb like one when double points are on the table. That's also a fair point, to be fair, as well. You know, there were double points on the table, potentially. Obviously, his car gave up in the end, but you've got a point there. It did cost Albon some time, but I still think Colapinto, he's got a point to prove. Albon's secure, probably long-term now. He's got to have a go, and he had a go, and he delivered, so... Black Hawk, sorry, Big Man Pat says Albon was this flabbergasted of Williams was in front of him. That's what it was. It was a shock of seeing a teammate fighting with him, definitely. Black Hawk, so hey mate, says, do you think it's a little silly that social media are causing teams to log a protest against a part on other teams' cars? Felt like social was overinflating the effect of what it did. We're talking about the mini DRS. Sorry, it took me a moment just to get there. I don't know how much the attention the FIA pay to social media. I would hope not a lot. I'd also hope that teams wouldn't base that on things they'd seen on social media. But look, socials will inflate anything that, you know, they'll take nothing and turn it into something, and then they'll blow that something that isn't anything into the biggest thing in the world that we've ever seen. I said it yesterday, if that rear wing was the silver bullet, the magic bullet that made that McLaren quick, they would not have voluntarily taken it off the car. I'm not convinced. Maybe it did make a difference in keeping Charles Leclerc behind in Baku. I don't know for sure. I've not got the data for that, but it had to make a difference. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been on the car. But if it made that much of a difference, they wouldn't have taken it off. So I think it was a bit of a storm in a teacup. But I think it's more, it feels like it's just the next step in the flexi wing saga. That seems to be what everyone's pushing, isn't it? That they want this investigated, but this isn't. You'll know, Black Hawk. So you've been around. I'm sure you've been around in F1 for a while. You'll know. We get this all the time. A flexi front wing, tire compounds get changed mid-season, or they tweak the floor regulations, or someone's floor is flexing too much, or loads. It happens all the time. Someone gets a dominant car, they're instantly accused of cheating because. On social media specifically, people don't like it when their driver isn't dominating, and that there has to, if a team does a great job and builds a great car, they have to be cheating, and that's just the way social media is. But I'd love to have had social media around in '94, you know, for that Benetton. And that season finale, could you imagine? Yeah, crazy, absolutely crazy. It's just exaggerated on socials. It's an echo chamber, isn't it? I guess, if that's the right words I'm looking for. Ruby says, do we need the fastest lap? I don't think we need it. I was sort of, when they introduced it, I quite liked it because it did add that extra point, and it gave somebody, I thought, it gives somebody a chance, maybe in 10th place, who's got the gap to 11th, to put a set of softs on and go for fastest lap. But it does seem to become, when we get to this end of the championship, the focus, doesn't it, of commentary in particular, really wanting to push that. Does Norris pit for a fastest lap? Do they do this? I like it, but it's the sort of thing that, even though it builds up over the course of the season, having the championship decided by it would be a bit rubbish to me. But then, having said that, didn't Formula E's one of the first titles in Formula E get decided by some chaos in London with drivers going for fastest lap who are well out, well down the field and whatever. So it can add things to it, I suppose, but I'm not that fussed. I'll see how I react if it is actually the fastest lap or not getting the fastest lap that decides the title. But, it's a season long. Not that bothered. But I know there are quite a few people, surprisingly, actually, that don't like the fastest lap thing. I do find it interesting that the second Red Bull team, RB, went for fastest lap today, and I do wonder if that was a call from higher up or whether it was just RB trying to give Daniel Ricciardo a send-off. Of course, we'll never know. We'll never know. We'll never be told, but that'll be interesting to know. But yeah. Is it Sayi? Thank you very much for your super chat. Says, congrats to Ricciardo on a haul of very good career. Thank you very much for your super chat and your support there. Appreciate that one. K-Mag's time was actually a lot faster. It was deleted due to track limits, says Pedder. Yes, that was a moment, wasn't it? He got the fastest lap and then it got deleted for track limits, which was a shame for K-Mag, but you leave the track, it's going to happen. The first season of Formula E went down to the clown show because Degrassi crashed into Buemi. Yes, it did. The first race was the one that ended in the crash between Nick Heidfeld. Was it Nick Heidfeld and somebody? Possibly Degrassi again. I can't remember now who that was. But yeah, I was thinking the first race. But yeah, no, the fastest that was bonkers. And I know Formula E is not everyone's cup of tea, but it happened. So it does add a bit of spice to things, but I'm not. If they got rid of it, I wouldn't mind. If they keep it, that's fine as well. Yeah. Yes, that was it. Prost's son. Yes. I think RB have shot themselves in the foot with that. They all but admitted they wanted to help Max, says Purple Zebra. It'll set the conspiracy theorists off with it, definitely. Sean, how long before Zach starts beating the drum about RB? Only 2 teams again, 24 or 48 hours. 7 hours, Warren. It'll crop up again. It always does. As long as there'll be a lot of people that don't like that RB did that today. But as long as I'm not that fussed by it. Maybe there's a bias there. I don't know. I'm not that fussed by it, but it's if we get to Abu Dhabi, for example, and Max is a point clear of Lando Norris and whatever, and then suddenly Yuki Tsunoda's a lap down and he starts backing Norris up, then we've got a problem. But I think that sort of thing, anyone can go for fastest lap, you know. McLaren, if they were thinking Drivers' Championship, it would be daft because Oscar Piastri wasn't a pit stop clear of Russell, but they could have pulled him in to go for fastest lap to take the point away and get it back to them, which again would have been pointless. But what I'm saying is that anybody can go for that, so they could have pulled Norris in. I'm glad they didn't, because imagine a sticky wheel nut, because he could have built the gap. He was 28 seconds clear at one point, so they could have pulled him in if he kept building the gap and gone for it if they were that bothered. But I don't know. There's still something about all this. I was thinking about it yesterday, sort of get back onto some sort of point rather than just randomly waffling. But there's a part of me that still doesn't believe that McLaren believe they can win the drivers. I don't know why. It's all about constructors, and I understand that they're top of it. They can win that. But, and this is, go back 6 races. I was never saying this back 6 races ago. Lando Norris can win this World Championship. It is more than possible. It's going to be tough. He's going to need some things to go his way. He's not going to win every race between now and the end of the season. Flash forward to Abu Dhabi when he wins every race between now and the end of the season. But I don't think he will as of today. It's so competitive at the front, this race aside, with the Ferraris when they're in the mix and Red Bull when they're on form and Mercedes if they have a good weekend. So I don't think he's going to win every race, and equally Verstappen won't be second in every race. But I don't know why. There's just a vibe I get. It's nothing anybody said. Nobody has said anything that makes me go, they don't want this. I just get a vibe that maybe that's not. They don't believe quite as much as they should, and if they did, maybe they would have put him in for some tyres and go for fastest lap and secure it, but they probably didn't expect that Daniel Ricciardo in an RB would put a lap in that good. So there you go, even on fresh tyres. Lando's favourite to win his championship. Why am I the only one who sees the Red Bull lack of pace, says Nick. I don't think you're the only ones that sees the lack of pace in the Red Bull. And I'm certainly not saying McLaren can't win his championship, or Norris can't, and unless I said it in my head, I'm pretty sure I just said that I think he absolutely can. He's got a great shot at it, but it's just McLaren don't. It's just a thing a vibe that I got from McLaren. It's nothing more than that. The Red Bull, I think the Red Bull pace is probably closer to where Perez is. I think Verstappen just pulled every single millisecond out of that this weekend and put in the performance he needed to. Just proved again that he's better than a lot of people seem to want to accept that he is. The sort of thing that we saw Schumacher do, that Hamilton's done before when they've had a car that's a bit meh and then they've pulled out a great result. So that's what the best do. I think Norris got a great shot at this. I'm just not. I don't know. It's so competitive. Anything, and so many different tracks coming up as well. Like I said earlier, there's different types of tracks. It's going to open the door for other teams, and Ferrari will take points away from McLaren and Red Bull. Mercedes will be in there to do that. Red Bull will take points from McLaren. McLaren will take points from Red Bull. It's going to be close, but I think Norris has a shot. But yeah, I like the word favourite's interesting, to be fair. Piastri today, if he's P3 on the grid, for example, maybe he finishes second. That's a 10-point swing. So there you go. In fact, actually, Nick just said Piastri will beat Max at least half of the remaining races. So there we go. We will see. I don't want to predict too much. Let's enjoy it. I'm sure it's going to be cracking. We've got some cracking tracks coming up as well. So looking forward to that as always. Crazy to think McLaren will win the Constructors again before Ferrari, says Big Man Pat. Yeah, especially after the start of 22. I thought we were back. Not quite. Didn't Gasly take the fastest lap at Hungary in 2021 to take it off Merc, says Hank. That's a good question. Let's have a look. 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix. Gasly took the fast 18.394. I got a horrible feeling the FIA don't go back that far on their things. They might do. I'll have a quick look. I'm hoping they do. Where did you say? Hungary. Let's have a look. Oh, good God. Where's their final classification? Final race classification. So the fastest lap. So Gasly, as I say, got the fastest lap on a 1:18.394. The fastest prior to that, it was Lewis Hamilton on a 1:18.715. So that's if that was from memory, that's impressive. That is actually impressive. Who was that? Hank. That's really impressive, Hank, if that's from memory. No, you're right. It absolutely was. Gasly set the fastest lap, 1:18.394. The next fastest lap was Hamilton on 1:18.715. So he would have had fastest lap had Gasly not pitted in the AlphaTauri. Great memory. You've impressed me, Hank. You've really impressed me with that one. Yeah, so there you go. So it has happened before. No, but yeah, you're absolutely right. There's also some talk about, I remember at the time, Qatar, I think, where Gasly seemed to let Max Verstappen through quite easily. Yes. How much of your emergency shocking news video about Ricciardo do you have edited already, lol? Nothing yet. I've got a plan for next week video-wise. I've got two ideas. One that I think I go with, one might change that, but it's going to be a bit more evergreen rather than breaking news. Daniel Ricciardo's on his way. Because I used to do a lot of breaking news videos. But nowadays, because of leaks and rumours and sources and all of that, by the time I get a video out, nobody cares. They've read it somewhere else or they've known for 6 weeks. You know, the Adrian Newey stuff is a great example. 5 years ago, that kind of story would have as a video would have blown up on the channel, but we've known that it was going to Aston Martin for weeks, so nobody cares by the time it actually happens. So this Ricciardo thing, by the time it's announced, everyone will go, yeah, and so I've got something else a bit more evergreen planned for that. So that'll be, I think that's going to be Saturday's video, and I might do something newsy on Thursday. So, Big Man Pat says Ricciardo's best race. They are, chat. There's a question for you. Best race for Ricciardo. Let me get his page up on the old Wikipedia, old reliable Wikipedia. Not always reliable, I appreciate, but on F1 it tends to be pretty bang on. So his best win, Monza was pretty good, wasn't it, for McLaren? But my first reaction to that was either the redemption at Monaco, driving a car with that was failing, basically, wasn't it? That was well down on horsepower, or China 20. Where did he win in China? 2018, 2019. I think it was. I'm making China up. 2018 China I thought was a pretty good drive as well. I know that was helped by a safety car with the Toro Rossos colliding. But yeah, no, in terms of wins, I'd be tempted to say Monaco, his redemption in Monaco. I did like that drive, all things. I know it's quite, I don't want to say easy because I couldn't do it and most of us couldn't do it, but it's not the most difficult thing to keep cars behind in Monaco and drive slowly, but I still think, that would have been a tough drive. So one of those two in 2018 I think were pretty good. Monza for McLaren was great. Baku 2017 was a good drive as well with all the chaos going on. I'm going to say something now, and I'm sorry, Daniel. It's not one as many races as I thought he'd won, actually. Yeah, no. He's had some good drivers. I mean, look, last year in Mexico for AlphaTauri as they were, I think that was a really good drive from him. It was P7, but I think he qualified like 4th. So there's been moments over the last few years where he really has gone, look, I'm still here, but they've not come consistently enough, and that's ultimately what's going to have made the decision. I get why people are saying, why Perez keeps his seat, but Ricciardo doesn't. But you've got to remember, as Elizabeth says, the money he brings. We've got Mexico coming up as a Grand Prix. That's a huge factor in all of this, and also they are listening to him more about the car now, it seems. So that's a really, I'm going to come to chat. That's a really tough shout on his wins and drives. Big Man Pat says Hungary 2014. Was that's a very good shout. Which I just in the middle of Mercedes domination. Yeah. I didn't put Canada on because that's where they both crashed out. But yeah, no, that's a fair point. Good drive from Danny Rick. Where were the Mercedes in that one? 3rd and 4th. Yeah, no, that's a good shout. I will take that one. I'll take that one on board. 2019 had a good China with Renault. It was 2018 for the China one. 2020 Europe GP is the one I remember Ricciardo for. 2020 European Grand Prix. Oh, look, 2020 is a weird season for me. I think it was a weird season for everybody. I remember very little about that season because there was a lot more going on in the world, wasn't there, at that point? So F1 wasn't everybody's. It was not. I'll tell you what it was. It was great escapism from all the doom and gloom, wasn't it? From the news. Which was it? Oh, the Nürburgring, wasn't it? And that was the Eiffel Grand Prix. Who had the European Grand Prix in 2020? Did anybody? You've thrown me now. I'm just scanning through them all really, really quickly. I don't think we did. So before I come back to chat, I'm going to say, are we thinking Belgium, Nürburgring, or Imola are the 3 I'm looking at there as possibilities? We didn't know. Triple pass at Baku, yes. That one of my memories from that is Felipe Massa's car bouncing like crazy. That was quite funny. Germany 2020 was at the Nürburgring. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was the Eiffel Grand Prix though, wasn't it? That was a good drive. Yeah, no, it's tough. It's a tough pick. I'm going to go with. I can't pick one. I've given you my list. That'll do. I'll give you a few races. We had some weird names. We had the 70th anniversary Grand Prix in 2020. We had the Tuscan Grand Prix, the Eiffel Grand Prix, the Emilia Romagna, which is still on the calendar, of course, at Imola. So that's still there. Yeah. Another great question for Black Hawk. So, do you wish the 2026 regs would be delayed for a couple of years? Aero testing limits and cost cap does appear to be doing something to bring the field together and just need a few more. I would like to see those delayed to 2030. They won't. But I kind of hope. Although, no, I say hope, but there's already talk about the next rule set a few years down the line. So I'd like to think if 2026 works out. Oh, it doesn't need to work out. Okay, 2026 can be awful, regs-wise. And you'll all go, what? But you leave that for 5 years. I mean, look where we are now. From only a few years. It was only what? We're 2024. New rules were in 22. It's only taken 3 seasons, less than that, 2 seasons for us to get to this point. So even if 2026 are awful, you give that 5 years without touching the regulations, where could we be there? So I'd rather they left them alone, but they never will. They never have. That's just Formula One change the rules all the time, don't they? That's the regs. But I do want them delayed. I'd like to see them delayed, but it's such a shame F1 isn't racing in Germany, says Hank. Agree. Hockenheim would be great to see back on the new layout, which isn't new at all, but you know what I mean. I love the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit, one of my favourite tracks. I'd love to see that back. But who's on the grid? Nico Hülkenberg. The Schumacher domination years, Vettel winning titles. I don't think Vettel, I seem to recall, maybe didn't fill grandstands like Schumacher did. He still got a lot of fans there. He didn't fill it like Schumacher did. There wasn't the hype around him, as I recall. But it's not really going to be like that on the grid at the moment. So if we suddenly get, Audi on the grid in 26, let's say Fantasyland, I know, let's say they smash it with the regs. They're the team to beat. Hulkenberg's winning races and championships year after year. We'll probably end up back in Germany. There you go. But I do miss not having a German Grand Prix. I actually miss not having a French Grand Prix, even though I hate Paul Ricard, the track. I just don't like it as a circuit. So Brad says the Red Bull was best car, but Mercedes won for years just by luck. Is that are you having a sorry, Brad? Are you having a conversation with somebody else? I'm not quite sure what. What that means. Sorry, I'm just. It might be a separate conversation, so Brad will come back to me, I'm sure. Vettel was a villain during those years for some reason. Yeah, I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with Seb Vettel at all. 2030 back to V10s. Oh, fair enough, Brad. David says back to V10. Well, it's all about these synthetic, sustainable fuels, isn't it? Whether that can work, but I don't know. I think there is a possibility we go back to V8s, but I don't see us going back to V10s. So, yeah. It'd be good to see. Any more questions then? Let's do a few more before we wrap things up. We did get through teams quite quickly earlier, so if we missed anything, please do shout. There were two reasons for that. One, we had Elizabeth for an hour, but two, I mean, you saw the race. So what more can we say? It's unlikely, but if Ferrari overtakes Red Bull in the championship, has anyone ever won the Drivers' Championship from a third-place team? Says Zach. That is definitely one for me to have a look at after stream, Zach. I don't want to sit here for an hour trying to work that out, but somebody might know in chat. But that's a very good question. Has anybody won the Drivers' Championship as a third place team in the constructors? Not off the top of my head. I'll have a quick skim because I want to know now. Yeah, you never know. List of Formula One drivers champions. Let's have a look then, and we can work out. Because the constructors didn't come in initially, did it, to start with? So Red Bull won it there. Mercedes won it there. Mercedes won all of them. Red Bull won all of them. Braun won that one. McLaren didn't win that one. They were second, though. Not for a quick skim that I can remember. But I'm going to come back to chat now, and they may know. That's a good question, though. It's a very good question. 1982 Rosberg, says Rossi, and 1983 Fittipaldi. Has that happened 2 years on the bounce then? Rosberg and Fittipaldi, 82 and 83. That's interesting. So there we go. Raikkonen, no, he was... Ferrari won the Constructors in 2007, didn't they? Because McLaren were disqualified, I think. But yeah, that's a good Rosberg and Fittipaldi. There we go. Some stats there for you. So it has happened, yeah. Let's see for any more questions. Like Max has said, go back to normally aspirated V8s or V10s, ditch a lot of the downforce, ditch the hybrid to make the car smaller, run them on that biofuel to be green. There we go. Says Hank. Was this Ricciardo's last race, says Jonathan? Nothing official, of course, otherwise I'm sure you would have seen Jonathan, but the belief is that yes, this is his last race for now, let's say. There is some talk that he will end up as part of the Red Bull pool or stay in the Red Bull pool. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Red Bull pool. Eyeball pool. In the Red Bull pool in case they need him. Maybe for Perez after Sao Paulo was what we were thinking. If they've sort of, the constructors is gone and they want to make a call, maybe give Ricciardo those last three races, see what he could do in a better car than the RB, possibly. But at the moment, it's likely to be his last race. It's, as we mentioned earlier, so if you've been here through the stream, sorry if I'm repeating this, but when you go back to those interviews with Sky and in the pen, he was talking very much about, reflecting on his career. He's got a lot of things he wants to achieve. Is he going to get in the Red Bull? Is he going to achieve it? It hasn't worked out this time. Does he want to stick it? There's a lot of it is, it just felt like goodbye is what it felt like. So again, as a person, I understand why he's so popular, and it is a shame from that point of view, but it's a results-based business, and plenty of lovely drivers have come and gone in the past. It happens, and if he's not performing, I think the bit that's frustrating people is that he's not performing, but then neither Sergio Perez, but I think Perez is going to come down to money and Mexico on the horizon. So I'm not confident Perez will be in that Red Bull next year, but we'll see. We'll see in the coming races, I'm sure. Before the end of the year, we'll hear something if that's going to be changing. But I mean, who do you put in there? Is Lawson going to do enough in 6 races to convince you? Is Tsunoda doesn't seem to be the one they want. Daniel Ricciardo it looks like he's going to be dropped from the team. Is he the one that's going to get in that car for next year? They've mentioned George Russell this last week to stir the pot a little bit, but he's not available next year, so it may be that they stick with Perez because he's all they've got. And if Liam Lawson does deliver next year, they then put him mid-season. I don't know, but yeah, that's the way it is. It looks like he's gone. So if you are a Danny Rick fan, I'm sorry, but yeah. Apparently Red Bull are entering Indy next year, says Craig. So Danny Rick, possibly. FIA limits the cylinders to 12 in 1989 and 10 in 2000, then 8 in 2006 and 6 in 2004. That's in response to Hank, which was some interesting stats there for you. Maybe Lawson to Red Bull in 25, and Red Bull or RB will have Yuki and Hadjar. Maybe. I suppose technically, I mean, that would be 11 races for Liam Lawson, wouldn't it? The 6 races remaining this year, then 5 that he'd done as a stand-in where he impressed. So that's 11 races. I don't think... Did Nick De Vries get 11 races? So maybe that will be enough for them to make that decision. But, yeah. We'll see. Danny Rick is going to go, but he'll be part of Red Bull, and they'll have him to call on if they need him. But if they don't put him in that car, they are going to push him in front of the cameras at every opportunity to do PR and all of that business, aren't they? They're really going to take his personality and use him for marketing on everything. So he'll still be around. We'll still see. I think he'd make a good pundit, actually, Danny Rick. Something a bit different to the what we usually have. I just think he'd be just... Yeah, that's probably where he'd end up. Probably on Sky. I'll take a couple more then, and then we'll call it for today. Let's see if we've got any questions. Looking for anything race-related. Bert Mylander hasn't led a race since Canada. Could he lose his seat? Washed, says Purple Zebra. When was the last time it's been this long? 9 races, I think, now, Purple Zebra, that we haven't had a safety car. Has anyone checked on Burnt, actually? Is he still awake? He might be still in the car. I don't know. But yeah, no, if ever there was going to be a safety car, it was here. So I'm absolutely amazed. No yellow flag, no safety car. The retirements we did have stopped in the pits. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I fully expected this to be a safety car race. Hank says it was a brutal race. I almost wonder if F1 needs to make 2 stops mandatory to spice up races like this. I don't think... I'm not sure 2 stops does spice them up. Yeah, I'm not sure too. I think we've been down this road before, but I'm not sure that 2 stops spices it up, because you just end up with a repeat of the first round of stops, maybe. I mean, it maybe throws up options. Mistakes can happen in pit stops, I suppose, but I don't think if we had a 2-stop mandatory 2-stop race today, anything changes. I think Lando Norris still cruises to the win. He just builds the gap to a pit stop, which he could have done because he had the pace. Rejoins in the lead. Maybe Verstappen, Piastri. Piastri could have tried an undercut on the second stop on Verstappen. Perhaps that was an option, but I'm not sure it changes much. But I get why people might think that you have a race like this and you think, oh, what could we do to spice it up? I mean, look, sprinklers. You know, that you could have it that every team, these are not serious suggestions before anyone starts, every team gets a button on their pit wall, and once a year they can press it for an emergency safety car for no reason, you know. All sorts of things. You know, stingers across the track every 3 laps that drivers have to drive around to avoid them. There's loads of things we can spice them up, but I don't think 2 stops is the way to go. Again, I'll reiterate the point for anyone in the comments later, they were not serious suggestions. I do not think for 1 second it's a good idea to deploy stingers on the track, although it would be hilarious. Maybe Sir Kill-A-Lot. There you go. Send him out for a couple of laps. Cause some chaos. There you go. I like the fact you've used the words Formula Sean there, Nick Surface. And I love that you love it. Might as well add a button for sprinklers. Ala Bernie Eccleston says Rossi. Driver of the day gets 25 points, says Cafe 88 Racer. Yeah, let's bring in Fan Boost as well. Why not? Fan Boost, we'll nick that from Formula E, who don't even use it anymore, I don't think. I might be wrong. I've not watched that for about 2 years, so I don't know what's changed there, but yeah, there you go. Reliability is too locked in with design freezes, so that's why, says Pedder. Possibly talking about the lack of safety cars there, almost certainly about the lack of safety cars. Yeah, but not, you know, on another day, Norris is a metre later and he's in the wall and we get a safety car with some of his moments. Piastri ran the outside of Russell. Russell has one of his moments and understeers into him, bearing in mind he had understeer and oversteer in that car. So on another day, there were the possibilities for safety cars, but just not today. Thank you very much to AC for being a member for 44 months. I am going to, possibly not this week, before Kota, let's say, I am going to start doing names at the end of videos and streams for members, so you get a bit more than just a helmet icon. So but 44 months, thank you very much. AC says sad for Danny Rick. A lot of people will be, that they will be. Brad says 50 laps in a modern era car and then 10 in a car from 2 or 4 years ago. That'll be quite fun. I'd like that one. Yeah, I think every lap the team principal is allowed to throw a water balloon at a rival's car from the pit box, says Warren. I like this. That's good. I'm just trying to think of anything else you could use. I don't think when this goes as far as no, we won't say that. Let's avoid saying that on a YouTube live stream. Get myself cancelled and the stream as well. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Party mode, says Ruby. Oh, Ruby. Still mad about that one. That was such a weird I liked party mode. I thought they added something to the weekend strategically, and you know how I like my strategy, but I also look at it from the FIA's point of view and sort of get it. But have you heard about Verstappen's comments at press conference about not wanting to continue when he can't be himself? What are your thoughts? I didn't see that, MSC Biles. I did not. So I'm going to go have a look now. I bet there's something in the PF1 group chat that I've missed, and I'm going to be like, oh, what the hell? That's Danny Rick. Oh, no, Max on Danny Rick on Spanish TV. There's some quotes there, which I think we sort of mentioned. Just have a quick flick through. Nothing. Okay. This is interesting. This is from Nate Saunders, actually, ESPN. Nate Saunders at Nate Saunders F1. Guest former guard of honour at RB for Ricciardo as he comes back. No confirmation it's his last race, but every indication is that's the case. If so, he signed off with fastest lap. If the team are forming and guests are forming a guard of honour for him, Daniel Ricciardo is done. Just to get back to that point, because you're not going to do a guard. We're doing a guard of honour. Why? Because it's a Sunday. Why not? Yeah, pretty sure that's yeah. Yeah, there's there's stuff I'm scrolling through that I cannot read, or I'll be in a lot of trouble. But yeah, just try to scroll through and see if there's anything in here about Daniel Ricciardo's quotes. If not, I'll go and have a look on Twitter. If anyone's got the full quote, at me on Twitter, that would be massively helpful. But if not, I will. Okay, yeah, no, there is some stuff here. Here we go. So Max Verstappen, when asked if the FIA might be affecting him staying in F1, he said, for sure. I mean, these kind of things definitely decide my future as well. When you can't be yourself or you have to deal with these kinds of silly things, I think now I'm at the stage of my career that you don't want to be dealing with this all the time. It's really tiring, you know. Of course, it's great to have success and win races, but once you have accomplished all that, winning championships and races, and then you want to just have a good time as well, of course, everyone is pushing to the limits, everyone in this battle, even at the back of the grid. But if you have to deal with all these kind of silly things, for me, that is not a way of continuing it in the sport, that's for sure. I don't blame him. I sometimes wonder with Max if he is just waiting for not an excuse to go because he can leave when he wants, but just looking for that final, the straw that broke the camel's back, if you like. You know, that's just one more thing, because it's such. We said it earlier. It's such a stupid thing. I mean, I get that people don't like swearing, but it's just part of language, and you know, if it offends you, then just. So that's really awful. I can't articulate what I'm trying to say properly, but I just Max Verstappen said his car was fucked. Oh my god, it's nothing. It's nothing. I said it yesterday, if he turned around to a journalist and started calling them an effing this and an effing that, and I'm going to come up to your house and punch you in the face, then yeah, you pull him up on that. You sit down and you say, right, you can't do that, Max. You're going to get a warning. You're going to do community service. But to describe a car that was fucked as fucked is not really that big of a deal. That's it now. I'm not a race driver, but the FIA will shut me down in seconds now. It's so silly, so unnecessary. And I said it earlier, I'm really glad that Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton said that's BS, basically. And I just think there are a lot of things in F1 that could be dealt with. And it's a shame they're not dealt with as swiftly as somebody using the F word in the press conferences, frankly. It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. But without going on a massive rant, I feel like that's just kind of the world we live in now, where you just, who cares? If you can hear barking, by the way, Barkley is back for 2 weeks. As I mentioned the other last time I was here in June, it's my dog's brother. My mum's got him, so they're away in Cyprus for 2 weeks, the swines, and we've got the dog for 2 weeks. So if you can hear barking, which I don't think you can, but as I said the other week, he's Barkley by name and Barkley by nature, so apologies there. But yeah, no, I just... And on team radio, let him swear. And ultimately, if you don't want swearing broadcast, FOM, then don't broadcast it, So there you go. And they don't, to be fair. They censor it, but it's just not necessary. It's just so not. It's... You also look at how Dutch media handle things and their interviews, and they just don't care. And you think... God, I wish a bit more like that. But yeah, Sky let one slip, didn't they? Ted Kravitz dropped the F-bomb, but yeah, that was so funny. So silly as well. But yeah, let's quickly wrap this up. I'll read some of your comments on that one, then we'll call it for today. They should have a swear jar and end it, says a Yinker. There we go. Oscar's helmet design for this race. Craig loves it. I do as well. I think, Craig, I'm going to pre-order that. The is it the 1-2 scale of the 1-2 scale helmet, the mini one. I think I'm going to pre-order that because that's available on his website. And I've wanted some Oscar Piastri merch, and I really love that. But I also like, and I can't find it for less than about 1,500 quid, is Sebastian Vettel's Abu Dhabi 2010 helmet. I've got a tiny one helmet, Sebastian Vettel's helmet. We need to end the stream quickly. I'm going to go off on a weird tangent here. But yeah, no. So I would like a 1-2 size scale of that, but they're like £1,500 because it's a championship winning helmet. So when did Ted do that? That sounds hilarious, as Benjamin. He was talking about the McLaren front wing, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he says he's talking about the wing, and then he gets his words muddled and he goes, oh fucking hell. But I think it was a recording that wasn't supposed to. They played out the wrong recording of that video, and so it's actually a production error rather than Ted's error, but it was quite funny. Exactly, Clancy. Max will probably leave F1 by 2028, especially if the new rules turn out to be a mess. He will go racing another series for sure, says Hank. What do we think? Endurance racing, maybe? Max is such an icon for the small conference he held, and for those answers. There's Anushka. Yeah, we talked about it earlier. Anushka. It was very much a just being arrested in a no comment interview, wasn't it? That was quite funny. I actually quite liked as well when he turned to, I've forgotten his name. It's gone up my head a second ago. Turned to the guy hosting it and said, "This isn't about you. This isn't aimed at you. I don't want to upset you." He was clear it was FIA and FIA only. So I like that one. Just put up a viewer's discretion advised notice before the show, whether they bleep or not. At least they noted it. Yeah. Ben Sully, gonna send Ted to do community service now. Yeah, maybe. Warren wants a weird tangent. We're just not. We can't, Warren. You know what I'm like. Yeah. I've got to be careful. Not because of Planet F1. I've just got to be careful because the things I've said on streams before that have got me in trouble from people in comments and whatnot. Anyway, I don't know why they bother showing the press conference. It's really worth watching, and it's not for us anyway. It's for the press, says Purple Zebra. Yeah. But then you could make the argument for testing as well, though, couldn't you? Why do they show testing? It's not for us. It's for testing. I'm going to prepare myself for the testing streams next year, nice and early. It's just a pet peeve when I see on social media people going, "Oh, testing's so boring. They need to do something to spice it up." No, they don't. It's literally testing. The clue is in the name. It's not for us. It's supposed to be boring. Benjamin's found the clip and loves it. I know you're here for weird tangents, but maybe another day. Stream's gone on long enough, I think. One more comment, then let's see what you've got. I agree on the press conference, by the way. It is for the press, so I don't really see why we need to see it, and it's not really. It's just PR answers, isn't it, most of the time. Was getting annoyed at Sky all weekend acting like drivers have a duty to kids, but who are the people who decide to publish the video? Says Sarah. Exactly, it's FOM that has to make that call, isn't it? Also, take some responsibility. Your kids shouldn't be anybody else's responsibility, but anyway, yeah, we're going to end it there. I'm going to stop now because then I'm going to go on putting the world to rights. The stream will be 6 hours long, and I'll be cancelled on it with the end of everything. So. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you again to Elizabeth for joining us today. Absolute pleasure to have her on. Hope you enjoyed having Elizabeth on. She will be back, and thank you for making her feel welcome as well. That's what I love about this community. You're all absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So, yes, good point, Brad. We've got 4 weeks for a tangent stream. There we go. Brad's content planning for me. Awesome. I'll let you get in touch, Brad. But yes, you can follow me over on social media at F1 Word on Twitter, on Facebook, and the F1 Word, I believe, on Instagram. I am going to be posting on there soon, I promise. I've been saying that for 4 years, but I will be at some stage. That is planned for maybe some behind the scenes stuff. I don't know, some other stuff. We'll see how we go. Don't forget as well, check out planetf1.com for the latest F1 news and reaction to. Links in the description. And go to my latest tweet as well and give Elizabeth a follow. I've added her in there, so please do go give her a follow. If you're watching later, I'll pop a link in the description to her X account as well. But I will be back tomorrow with the winners and losers for Singapore. I've already written on my losers list the fans, but I don't know if that's maybe a little bit harsh. Back tomorrow. It'll be out around 6, 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow. I won't set a time because it depends how well my PC plays ball. And of course, then there'll be a couple of videos out later in the week, and then we'll keep doing that until we get to Kota, and then off we go for the final 6 races of the season with a weird break again after Brazil because reasons. But as ever, let's not get into breaks again. I've been sure. This has been the F1 Word. Thank you for watching. I'm trying that on again. That was awful. Right, stop. It's a disaster. It's all gone so wrong. I shouldn't have interrupted my outro. I can't do it. You should hear the outtakes. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been sure. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.